Could it be? For me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to the command post. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. I, of course, am your commander-in-chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. So we're on the Command Core series where we break down every position for the Washington Commanders heading into training camp, talk about the outlook of the position, who we think ultimately will make the roster. And again, that's a really almost nonsensical conversation at this point because so much has to transpire between now and the end of August when these rosters will begin to crystallize. We kind of have a feeling, who's going to be the core guys, but anything could happen, right? That said, we want to take a look at what we ultimately think is going to happen, talk about what the team did at the position last year and what we think they can do this year. And we have moved on now to the cornerback position. And we've talked a lot about improvements that have been made to this roster this year. And I think when we talk about the positions that have been impacted the most, improved and upgraded the most, and most people just point to the offensive line. I would beg to differ and tell you that the most upgraded position on this roster is the cornerback position because the offensive line was not terrible last season. They had their stretches, specifically down the stretch of the season, where injuries started to take effect. And it was a bit of a war of attrition at that point. But the offensive line was never a sieve. This was not 2022, right? This was not, 2023 especially. This offensive line last year was solid. It was a solid group that overachieved for much of the season. The corners were awful last season. It was a disaster. And if not for massive performances from unsung heroes like rookie Mike Sainristil and, vet journeyman Noah Igbenogany, don't know what we would have done at the cornerback position last season. From where we were last year to where we are now and what we perceive this position to potentially be, night and day. And I think for some of you, what I'm about to say may seem a bit reckless. Hear me out. Let's take a look at this position group heading into training camp. Look at what they did last year at the position, what I think they're going to do this year, and then start getting into some rankings for the cornerback position for the Washington Commanders in 2025. So let's take a look. All right. Commanders are heading into camp with 10 corners at the position. We expect half of these guys to make the roster. We feel like we know the 5 guys that are going to make this roster. We feel pretty confident about that. I don't see them keeping an additional 6th corner. Doesn't make any sense. The number is usually 5 at cornerback. And unless one of these guys just performs at such a high level that they don't feel comfortable exposing them to the rest of the league, the number is probably going to be 5. You've got undrafted rookie Fentrell Cypress II out of Florida State. Allen George is a guy that was here last year, sort of practice squad, a guy that I think they brought in here as a part of the 90. I don't know if he was necessarily here last year. That's an unfamiliar name, but I know he's been here for at least 6 months or so, right? Noah Igbenogany, again, one of the unsung heroes of last season, specifically in that secondary, brought back on a 1-year deal. Jonathan Jones, one of the bigger names from a free agency standpoint. One of the 2 guys that we brought in from New England, and a guy that we think is going to be huge in terms of depth at the cornerback position for us, something that we did not have last year at cornerback because of the struggles. We'll talk about that here in a second. Marshawn Lattimore, a guy that we traded for last trade deadline, did not go as smoothly in terms of that transition. We traded for him. He was already hurt when he got here, and he never really fully recovered. I've got, if I were a betting man, I'm betting on Marshawn Lattimore. I'm betting a house on Marshawn Lattimore bouncing back this season and playing top-notch football. And my confidence level in him is extremely high for this upcoming season. Bobby Price is a guy that we joked about last year. He was here last year on the practice squad. I would make the joke about what are we going to do? Put Bobby Price in the game. 6'4" is crazy at the cornerback position. You know, we can sit here and joke about it, but 6'4" is 6'4" at the cornerback position. That's unique, right? Mike Sainristil was phenomenal in his rookie season. He feels like one of the core guys that we drafted last year that's going to be a part of this thing moving forward for quite some time. Made a huge impact on this team last year, moving inside to slot this year where he is probably more naturally suited. We feel really good about what he could potentially be as a nickel defender. We got high hopes for him this upcoming season. Kayvon Seymour was a guy that actually got suspended last year for 6 games. They held on to him, so you know they value Kayvon Seymour. Was brought back after the suspension and was active most weeks. You know, was not on the actual 53-man roster, but was on the practice squad and was a guy that they valued as a special teams defender and was active most Sundays, especially with all of the turmoil we had at corner as things got pretty thin and we didn't have a bunch of bodies out there because they released a lot of guys and moved on from them. They ultimately, and at one point, some of these guys became unplayable, it felt like. But Kayvon Seymour was a guy that they absolutely loved on special teams. And again, not someone that we should just dismiss. Carlin Vigors was one of their undrafted guys, along with Fentrell Cypress, the second, that they really like. And you know, again, you know, bigger frame at 6'2", 200 pounds. They think he's got some versatility. And so it'll be fun to see what he looks like in training camp and into the preseason. And then Trey Amos, the second round pick that we feel like has a chance to just be amazing this season. We're going to ask a lot of this kid in his rookie season. And we're hoping that Trey Amos is ready for the task and the challenge because we're counting on him in a major, major way as a second round pick out of Ole Miss. So those are the 10 guys. Last year, as you can see off to your right, the Commanders kept 5 cornerbacks, which is the standard number pretty much league-wide. Most teams keep 5 corners. That's usually been the move here in Washington. And the guys that they kept last year, Mike Sainristil, the rookie second-round pick a season ago, Benjamin St-Juste, Emmanuel Forbes, former first-round pick the year prior. So it was crazy to see them literally in the middle of the season cut a former first-round pick from the year before, right? But they didn't draft that guy. So it made sense from that perspective. He was just so bad, right? Michael Davis, boy, was I wrong about him. I was so wrong about Michael Davis. My God, he was awful here. And then Noah Igbenogany, who became an unsung hero. So you can see Benjamin St-Juste became almost unplayable by the time we got to the midpoint of the season. Emmanuel Forbes was gone by the time we got to the midpoint of the season. And Michael Davis was virtually unplayable by the time we get to the midpoint of the season. So as you can see, there was little to no depth whatsoever on this roster at corner. Mike Sainristil was a nickel that we drafted him to be that had to get pushed out to boundary. And Noah Igbenogany was a guy that we thought was going to be more of a special teams guy. He was playing outside at first. They had to kick him inside, and he ended up playing really well there. And then we had Benjamin St-Juste on the outside. That was a disaster. We tried to put Michael Davis in. That was a disaster. It prompted them, because it was so bad, to trade for Marshawn Lattimore. That wasn't a disaster, but it wasn't as good as we thought it was going to be. So the cornerback position was a mess last year, to say the least. And we were fortunate that Mike Sainristil was able to go out there and be as versatile as he was. And Noah Igbenogany was able to be as versatile. We call him the general because he ain't Allstate, he ain't State Farm, but he is insurance. He is insurance. So he was able to come in and really help stabilize the secondary, was Noah Igbenogany along with Mike Sainristil. But the difference this year, the confidence level this year in this cornerback group, you're going to call me crazy. What I'm about to say to you may shake some of you to your core. You may call me crazy. You know, a lot of other fans of other fan bases call me delusional, right? With an emphasis on the Lou. in that word, right? Maybe I've got on burgundy colored glasses here, but this is how I feel. And I've kept it a beam with y'all with these positional breakdowns thus far. We haven't been anywhere near the top in any of them until now. Uh-oh, here we go. So let's talk about this group. First of all, we expect 5 guys to make this team, and barring any kind of unforeseen circumstances, we know the 5 guys, right? It's going to be Noah Igbenogany, Jonathan Jones, Marshawn Lattimore, Mike Sainristil, and Trey Amos. And we expect Trey Amos to start on one side, Marshawn Lattimore to start on the other side. In the nickel will be Mike Sainristil. And then we feel like the versatility between the 2 guys backing them up in Noah Igbenogany and Jonathan Jones both can play inside or outside. So the versatility that you have at the cornerback position is limitless because the 3 guys you have in there as starters, 2 of them are pure boundary corners in Trey Amos and Marshawn Lattimore. Pure boundary corners. Now, Trey Amos can also play inside in the slot, but that's not where you want him. But in a pinch, if you got to reshuffle the deck, you can move him inside and he'll be just fine. He'll be comfortable, but he was drafted to be a boundary corner, right? Mike Sainristil showed last year that he has the versatility, if need be, to kick outside, and then you can just slide in a Jonathan Jones in the nickel or a Noah Igbenogany in the nickel, right? Or you could leave if Mike Sainristil is having a Pro Bowl caliber season and something happens to one of our boundary corners. You're like, no, he's too irreplaceable inside to move him. Just put Jonathan Jones out there, right? And you're still fine. And that's the versatility that you have. If something happens to, our nickel, well, Jonathan Jones or Noah Igbenogany can play. So the versatility and what we have at our disposal this year is something that we just haven't had in quite some time here in Washington. I can't tell you the last time I've had this much. I can't speak for any of you, right? You may not be talking as reckless as I am about this positional group, but the level of confidence I have in this group, and I haven't even seen them, right? But I know what Noah Igbenogany brings to the table. Saw it last year with my own eyes. I'm very confident that if he has to go in the game, he's not going to wet the bed. I know what Mike Sainristil can do. Now, do we know what he's going to do at nickel? No. But I watched him in college. I know what he's capable of. He's very comfortable. I think he's only gotten better because of his experience last year playing outside. It's going to make him an even better defender inside this year. He's adjusted to the speed of the game. He knows angles, and I just think he's going to be fantastic inside. I've got no worries about him. Trey Amos looks the part. He looks the part, and I feel so good about him going into camp. Now, we'll see what happens, but this kid, he looks the part of a day one demon outside. And then Marshawn Lattimore, who to me is the wild card of all of this, I'm willing to bet the house on Marshawn Lattimore bouncing back. The biggest thing for him is staying healthy. Now that I can't vouch for. I don't know. But if he's healthy, there's no way he's going to play the way that he played last year. I'm just telling you right now. And he's already come back this camp and said, I feel as healthy as I've felt in a long time. Because he already told us, I wasn't healthy at any point last year when I got to Washington. I was never healthy. But I wanted to validate the trade, so I wanted to be out there, and I probably came back earlier than I should have on multiple occasions, but I wanted to validate them trading for me. And we needed him. We were willing to take an 80% Marshawn, a 70% Marshawn, over 125%, Benjamin St-Juste or Michael Davis. So, again, I'm not mad at him for strapping it up, even though he wasn't ready to go. But now he's ready to go. And if he's healthy, he's going to be locking up some receivers this year. I'm sure of it. So, with that said, here I go. Yep, here I go. It's going to be fun to watch some of those young guys, too, in training camp and in the preseason and see what we have, because part of this is development, right? you want to see some of these young guys step up because how much longer is Marshon Lattimore going to be here? He's got 2 years left on his deal, right? If he plays well this year, he'll probably be here next year too, right? If he doesn't, there's a chance he could get cut after this season. Who knows, right? Noah Igbenogany, 1-year deal. Jonathan Jones, 1-year deal. So you want to see some of these young guys play well in the preseason because they may be the future at the position. Or the guys that may ultimately be part of the future at the position may not even be here yet. But you want to see some of these young guys play well. But with that said, let's start with where I have this group ranked in the division. I got them first. Now, I mulled over this decision, obviously, with the Philadelphia Eagles. Them losing Darius Slay is a big effing deal. Okay. If they're going to start Kelee Ringo across from Quinyon Mitchell, that's a problem. And yeah, they brought in a veteran. What's my man's name? I think he was just with the Giants not too long ago. Oh man. Forgot his dang on name. Let me get his name. They brought in a veteran. He's cool, but he don't scare nobody. Adoree Jackson. They brought in Adoree Jackson. He's cool. Is Adoree Jackson. I don't give a damn about Adoree Jackson. Put his ass out there so he can get cooked. He was just with the Giants, and we were cooking his ass then too. So I feel really good about, I've said this, the Eagles aren't as good as they were last year. They're not. They're not as good as they were last year in the secondary. They're not as good on their defensive line, even though I think their D-line is going to be just fine. But they're not good. They're not as good as in the secondary. They lost C.J. Gardner-Johnson. They lost Darius Slay. They lost vital pieces in that secondary. They can replenish what they lost on the D-line. It's what they do. But they're not as good as they were a season ago. They lost pieces on that offensive line, even though that's another one of those positions. They just plug another guy in, put him at Stoutland U, put him through the courses, put him on the line, and they're just fine, right? But I think you can attack that secondary. If Adoree Jackson and Kelee Ringo are the best you have to offer at boundary corner, that's trouble. That's barbecue chicken, is what I smell barbecue chicken. Yum, yum, eat them up. But they still got some dogs back there. Don't get it twisted. But the depth of our room is greater than the depth of their room. They only go 3 deep. They got a lot of young guys that they're going to have to ask to step. Eli Ricks. I would love to see Eli Ricks on the field. Please. Please put Eli Ricks. Please put Kelee Ringo on the field. Please. I was so glad they let Rodgers leave for next to nothing. He played really well for them last year. Please let Eli Ricks or Kelee Ringo have to be on the field. Please. Pretty please. So, yeah, I like us better than them. I like our depth. I like our versatility. They got some young dogs over there. No pun intended. Quinyon Mitchell, the white dude that had the pick 6 in the Super Bowl. Yeah, they got some young dogs over there. But I like our stuff better than theirs. So first in the division. Now you expand it to the conference. Uh-oh. I got us first in the NFC. Isn't that crazy? First in the NFC. And I went through the list of corners on every team in the conference, and I'm like, not taking them over our guys. And again, Marshon Lattimore and Trey Amos, I'm putting a lot of stock into these dudes. Marshon, I think you're more okay with that because there's a body of work there that says if he's healthy, you got nothing to worry about. And that's all all I'm banking on is that will the real Marshawn Lattimore please stand up? Please stand up. Please stand up. And I expect him to. I expect him to. He's still got good football left in him. Trey Amos hasn't done it at this level. And that's the one where you might be saying, Louie T, you overrating this young guy. Maybe I am. I don't think I am, though. I think we got a steal. An absolute steal in the second round. So between those two, Mikey going to the nickel and then having the depth behind them, guys with starting experience, which a lot of these teams don't have, significant starting experience. In the case of Jonathan Jones, I like where we are. And again, the guys on the bench are guys, that's where you want them. But if they need to play, there's confidence in those guys coming in and the drop-off not being disastrous like it was last year. You look around the rest of the conference. There's only a select few teams that you look at and you go, I'll listen. There's only 2 teams in the conference that I'm listening to. If you want to have a discussion about your corners being better than ours, I'm listening. If you don't have one of these two, if you're not one of these 2 teams, you're not a fan of one of these 2, don't talk to me. Chicago and Philadelphia, only 2 teams that can talk to me. If you're not a fan of one of those, I don't even want to hear you uttering a single word because your corners ain't like that. They're not like that. Don't say nothing to me. So we got the best corners in the division, the best corners in the conference. Yes, I said it. Now you expand it to the league. All right, this is where you expect the drop-off to take place. And that's fair. Or is it? I've got this cornerback group ranked 4th in the entire National Football League. Yes, I said it. 4th. A top 5 cornerback room in the league. The only 4 teams I have ahead of, or 3 teams I have ahead of us: Baltimore, Houston, Denver. That's it. That is it. The only teams that I'm willing to even listen to a debate and conversation about being ahead of us: Pittsburgh, with the additions of Darius Slay and Jalen Ramsey. You got that's something to listen to, right? They're old, though. They're old, right? They're old, but still effective. I'm not a Joey Porter Jr. fan. I do like Bishop Beanie. So I like the depth. I like the experience. I still like our room as a whole better than theirs. But boy, that's a lot of good stuff they got over there. I listen to the Steelers fans. Buffalo. Christian Benford bringing back an old friend, right? And Tre'Davious White. I really like their nickel corner. They got some depth over there. They got some stuff. It's an interesting mix that they have. They just drafted the corner Hairston out of Kentucky. I heard he got himself into some shit potentially, but regardless, they got some stuff. I like Trey Amos better than I do Maxwell Hairston. I did not want us to draft Maxwell Hairston. Philadelphia and Chicago are the only other 2 that I'd listen to. So even if you decided to put all of those teams ahead of us, we're still 8th in the league. Which I'm not putting those teams ahead of us. I got us 4th. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm crazy. I'm listening. The comment section is right below. Drop it down there and let me know that I'm tripping, that I'm delusional. I don't think I am. I think this group has a chance to be the catalyst that carries this defense because we don't really know what we're getting from the guys up front. And that's the only thing that could hurt this group is if the pressure doesn't get to the quarterback and he's got all day to throw the football, guys are going to get open eventually. But if the pass rush and the secondary are working harmoniously, I think this group is going to be really good this season. Really good. They've got a chance to be one of the better units in all of the National Football League. And their coverage may ultimately help our pass rush hit home. Quarterback's got to hold it just an extra tick. Now, all of a sudden, Dorrance Armstrong is turning that corner and getting to the quarterback. There were so many close calls for Dorrance last year. That extra second of Michael Davis getting beat on a hitch or Benjamin St. Juste, getting beat right off the line of scrimmage like he stole something. That extra tick might actually be there now. I'm excited. What says you? Leave it down in the comment section. Where does this cornerback group rank for you? What are your expectations for them in the upcoming season? Mine are high and I'll tell you another reason why I'm so high. And this is probably the reason why I'm the highest on this particular group is because who they're being coached by. Who they're being coached by. The corners are Joe Witt Jr.'s baby. This is what he does. This is what he does. And Jason Simmons, our defensive pass game coordinator, this is what he does. Now you give him some dogs, you give him some demons, and you say, hey, go make it hell for him outside. Hell, make it hell for him inside too. They can't go nowhere and rest easy. What you think they finna do? They ain't had the horses last year. Now, they got all the materials they need to build some real ironclad shit. And I expect them to do exactly that. So that's part of the reason why I'm so high, because I think this staff knows how to coach up corners. We got two of the best teachers, I think, in the entire NFL coaching these boys up, and we got real talent now. Not that bullshit we had last year that was parading around as talent. We got real NFL legit talent out here on these streets. Nobody's eating for free this year. Nobody's eating for free. A lot of free lunches going on last year, man. A lot of free lunches. No one eats for free around here anymore. You want to eat, you got to pay. And a lot of receivers' money ain't going to be good around here. Tell you that right now. Messing around with this group. But anyway, that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on the Command Post. Command Core Cornerbacks. Tell me I'm crazy. Or tell me I'm with it, Louie T. I'm with it in 2025. We talked about this already. Are you with it in 2025? If you are, you got to be with it because of this group right here. This is the group that makes you feel confident that this defense can turn it around. And instead of being a sore spot, a weakness, something that we have to circumvent and overcome, they're helping the offense put up astronomical numbers and make it tough for teams to keep pace. You want to throw 40 burgers on the grill? This is a group that's going to help you probably be able to do that. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. Until next time, I'm your man Louie T, signing off. You guys have a good one. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. We'll talk about this. Oh, I know we will. Have a good one. LouieTeeNetwork.